Quiet, numbskulls. I'm broadcasting.
Hello, you're listening to the podcast. So there I was. This is episode number 147. It's like surfing in the sky.
Yeah, it is. What a great description, man. And not the first guy who ever went and saw the Blues and said, oh, I want to do that.
Right?
Fantastic.
Right? I mean, that's the Blue Angels have been an inspiration for, probably too many of our guests to count.
Yeah,
including the guy that's talking right now.
Right. And so here's the thing. Maybe that's why the Navy keeps spending money on what looks like frivolous sections.
Weird, right?
Yeah. What a
It's almost like they knew what they were doing.
I know. Go figure. Oh, man. That's a lot of money, but it is a powerful recruiting tool. No doubt about it. So.
Our guest, Wolfy, flew as number 3 and number 4 for a couple years and had an amazing career in the Navy, but had a different path into the Navy than most of our guests. Very interesting.
He really did. Hey, let's get some show business out of the way and then come back to that, because I want to talk about how he got into that. So, but we need to say thanks to the Fighting Through podcast. It's a WW2 podcast, and the gent actually goes back and reads the memoirs of people who were there, been there, done that, and got the T-shirt and actually fought the war.
That's badass.
It is badass. It's fightingthroughpodcast.co.uk, and it's up there on Spotify and Apple and all that. And fascinating to listen to some of these memoirs of people that went there. Started with his own dad, who he helped get his dad's memoirs published, but some really cool stuff there.
Well, we also need to say thanks to our other sponsor, HSI Wealth Strategies.
Right. Robbie Walling. Reach out to him at robert.walling@novembermike.com, robert.walling@nm.com, or call him at 214-538-7030. That's 214-JET-7030.
Nice.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Robbie. And thank you to other people who have lost all sense of financial common sense, cracked their wallets, and threw money at us.
Right?
Yeah. So need a couple call signs here, Figs. We got Paul Shepherdson, who threw $25 in our direction. We're deeply grateful for that. That was that's generous.
I think he's call sign good Shepherdson.
Good Shepherdson. Yeah.
Good.
There you go. Yeah. And then a Welshman by the name of Clint Budd is now a pilot on Patreon.
I think there's no other choice but to call him Wiser.
Clint Budd Wiser.
And thank you, gentlemen, for losing all sense and good judgment and throwing money at us, but we do appreciate it. It's very humbling. Thank you.
And then a repeat, no pun intended, tanker aircraft commander by the name of Sal Marinello. Sal's been on the show and has thrown another $200 at us. God bless you, Sal. Grandpa Sal. New call sign for him. Grandpa.
Grandpa. That's awesome. Congratulations on that. Semper Fi, and thank you for losing all judgment and throwing money at us, Sal.
Indeed. So, hey, let's get back to the show real quick. So, Wolfy goes and interviews to be a Blue Angel, absolutely rails it, nails it. Best
Couldn't have gone any better.
No.
Right? Couldn't have gone any better. Yeah.
And
sorry.
Not interested.
It's awesome to hear him tell that. It's because you're right there.
Right. And here's the other thing that's interesting. What possibly caused that? Because they had another one that he talked about when he did eventually go back and make the team, obviously. And there was another one, and everyone unanimously was like, yeah, let's bring this guy down. And came in, and he goes, it was a textbook interview on how you do this. And everybody voted him in, and one person raised their hand and said, really? Did you guys not see it? What?
Right. Don't give it away. Don't give that far away.
I won't. But it's like, holy cow. That's what it takes to not make the Blues? Yeah, nobody can make it. How does anybody get on the team?
Right.
So, exactly. but similar, getting into the Navy at all. It's a shock
my
he got
gosh.
in the Navy.
Just say no,
No.
right?
The
Just
answer is
say no.
always no.
Yeah, that's a good story too.
Yeah, but never quit is the motto of the recurring theme of this show. No
Oh,
doubt
yeah.
about it. So
Yeah, for real. That's spot on, Repeat. Spot on, buddy.
yeah.
What do you say we get out of the way?
Well, how about we quit? Yeah, get out of the way and hear a really great interview. This is a lot of fun. Don't sit on the ejection seat handle.
Dude, don't sit on the
Here's
ejection
a true
seat.
story
Don't do
about
it.
crossing the pond at night in the world's smallest cockpit on the tanker through the weather. Oh, and to the tanker crew who did that, thanks a lot. We really appreciated that. I'm just kidding. No, I'm not. Well, there I was, crossing the pond, and you could see that I wasn't exactly fond.
So there I was. It's August 21st, 22nd. We're in 1998. I'm the number 3 pilot for the Blue Angels left wing. We're coming in for the Diamond 360, which is the signature move for the actual team. And my left wing is maybe 150 feet off the deck, maybe 125. And we're finally starting to bring the demonstration into a tighter set. And number 2 and I collide.
Oh,
And that's where I was.
Oh. Hey,
Not cool.
that's never. Somebody was rubbing. What
We
law
rub,
they
yeah.
call that? There was a little
right
rubbing.
like NASCAR. Rubbing is racing.
so that's how all great aviation tales begin. Greetings, everyone. Repeat here, coming to you from the icy, stormy New Hampshire tonight. Where's my co-host?
Well, I'm in Kearney, Missouri. It is winter time. It's just not. It's just there's no precip. It's just colder than a well digger's ass.
Oh, well,
That's
there's
pretty
that,
cold.
right on. Yeah. So, well, welcome to Wolfy, Naval Aviator, surfer, and I'm kind of wondering, was that I know it was after him, but was it lawman? Because he hit the boss all the time. So.
Yeah, I learned that trick from lawman, right? No, you will not allow. I will not allow you to disparage lawman in my company. He's one of the most epic naval aviators I know. Someone I revere tremendously, as I know we all do.
That's a ditto.
Right.
That's a ditto.
What a wonderful guy. We had the privileges of flying Harriers with Lawman, which is where we first met him. And what a wonderful gentleman. So, all right. Well, so I kind of alluded to it there. Started off as a surfer. How do you wind up?
Yeah, how'd you go from surfing to naval
the
aviator?
blues.
How'd that work out?
Yeah.
And I think all our experiences in aviation, and it doesn't matter whether it's Navy, Air Force, commercial, or whatever, it's a very legacy-driven industry, right? Wherein dad flew, so therefore the son or daughter is going to fly, and everybody else flies. I had no military background, no military experience. The only experience I had in the military growing up was Point Magoo was right up the road, and it's quite possibly the best wave in all of California, called Pelican Point. And I was dying to meet people that could get me on base to go surf there. The only other access point was taking Zodiacs and jumping off the Zodiac and surfing. Okay. And so zippy experience. And to the point where, I surfed throughout my high school years, and then I went to Hawaii for about 2 to 3 years, taking tourists out sailing on sailboats and surfing a ton. And I wanted to come back and make something of my life. And I thought, what the heck? I'm going to be the next Brad Pitt, even though he wasn't discovered then, but I'm going to be the next Brad Pitt. And I come back to California. I'm going to acting school, and I'm working in restaurants. And I changed jobs to this restaurant in Westwood, California. And there's this stunningly beautiful woman inside and out working the cash register. And the manager saw me looking at her. He goes, Dave, We don't allow employees to date here because a cashier and a waiter embezzled about $60,000 2 months ago. So you're forbidden to date any girls in the restaurant.
Wow.
Okay, bummer. So I don't introduce myself to her. I don't talk to her.
Okay, I quit.
And we finally strike up a conversation. She introduces herself to me, and it's crystal clear that her faith is the most important thing to her. She's a very, very good Christian girl, and I'm anything but a good Christian boy. And so we start dating, and we actually go to Paul, the general manager, says, we are never going to steal money out of here, but we really like each other. Do you mind if we date? And he actually allowed it to happen. And so it's going great. And I know she's a good Christian girl, and I'm spending a lot of money on her. We're going on dates. I won't hold her hand. I won't try and kiss her or anything. And she's just wondering, what gives, I mean,
what's
I'm
wrong with
attracted to this guy, and it seems like. And so we started getting pretty serious, and she went home and told her parents, Mom and Dad, I think I want to marry this guy. And they're like, oh no, he's got to do something with his life. And her dad got me VIP passes to the Blue Angels at Point Mugu in 1983. And I saw that show, and it was like surfing in the sky. And that's just my mentality. I had no clue how difficult it was to get in any cockpit in any naval aviation aircraft. I had no clue, but I saw that show and it inspired me. And I went and spoke to the recruiters, and the recruiters, oh yeah, we'll get you into flight school. It takes 4 years, and then you're going to come back and we'll send you off to flight school. I'm like,
Yeah.
that doesn't sound right. And I'm kind of old. And so I called Becky's dad and I said, hey, Mr. Conroy, it's Dave Silke. Oh, Dave, what is it? And he said, well, I'm looking at joining the Navy, but they want me to enlist, and they want me to do it for 4 years, and then they send me to flight school. No. Don't do that. And I'm like, okay. And he goes, go and talk to the ROTC unit at UCLA. I said, okay. So I call, I make an appointment, and I meet with this gentleman, Lieutenant Iannello, and he's a nuclear submarine officer. And, aviators are a bit freewheeling. Nuclear submarine officers are not. It's yes and no, black, white. There's no art form, right?
No.
You don't get to say, well, today we're going to try this. There is no trying anything. You're
right.
told what to do and you execute perfectly. So
do or do not. There is no try, huh?
Right? And he sits me down, and it was a normal office space, but I was really uncomfortable because there's a bunch of military guys floating around. I'm still in my surfer gear, kind of. I dressed up for it, but long hair and whatnot. He goes, okay, Dave, we're going to start this interview, and it's critically important that you be honest because we got ways to figure out whether you're lying or not. And I'm like, oh gosh. I'm thinking, I'm looking for cameras. I'm feeling my seat. I have no idea what the heck he's talking about, but I thoroughly believe him. And we start the interview, and it's going great. It's probably the second best interview in the history of the world. And I was lucky to be involved in the first best interview of the history of the world. And we can talk about that a little bit later. But
okay.
So he it's going great. And he goes, okay, Dave, so have you ever done any drugs? And I'm like, oh, he told me he knows. And I'm like, I'm like, yeah.
Crap.
And he's like, no. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like what? And I said, well, marijuana and cocaine. And he's like, and he was so defeated. I felt like I just
let him down.
Let him down. Oh. And he's like, well, okay, anything else? I'm like, crap, man, I told you I'm a surfer in the 70s. You should know this answer. And I said, well, yeah. Like what? And I said, well, Quaaludes and mushrooms, but I didn't like them. And he's like, okay, interview's over. And I'm thinking, man.
Mistakes were made.
Right? I'm like, bummer. And he goes, Dave, I don't know why, but we're going to start this interview over again. And when I ask you that question, your answer is no, and it's always no, because if you tell anybody, you may lose your job, and you may definitely absolutely impact my career. Does that make sense? I said, you bet. Okay, we're starting the interview over again, Dave. Have you ever done drugs? I said, no, I'm a surfer, but I never partake. I care about my body, never would do that. Okay, you're in. And it was a great, great life lesson for me, no question. And those of us that have had the gift of participating in naval aviation realize what an amazing gift it is.
Right.
That's the friendships, the hardest of times, but the best of times, and just the commitment of everyone rowing in the same direction every single day, no matter how hard it gets. I still pinch myself to think that I was part of that. I didn't deserve it.
I don't think any of us really did, but it was pretty damn awesome, wasn't it?
Yeah, no question.
Hey, you triggered a memory. I was sitting across from a GS employee, old retired guy, doing my paperwork for getting into Marine Corps OCS, and he asked me the exact same question, and I said, "Well, yeah, I guess, yeah, I smoke marijuana," and he goes, "Well, how many times?" And I'm like, "Geez, I don't know, 50?" And he goes, "How about once?" And I'm like, "Okay." And he goes, "Once it is." He writes it down.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah. So
that's
then,
like Joe Walsh. You only got drunk once.
Well, then
He was drunk for 20 years, but
flash forward, I'm sitting around with a bunch of Marine buddies. We're in Pensacola one night, and we're talking about college and stuff, and we're talking about our pathways into getting a commission, and the subject of who was forthright when they asked if they did drugs. And I was the only one in the room that admitted to it. Everybody had done them, but I was the only one that was like, how the hell did I get here then? Because everybody else said, nope, absolutely not.
They were better prepared. Someone gave them the gouge.
I had no gouge.
That's the gouge I got. No, never, not even ever. Never thought about it. Well, I don't even know how to spell it.
Well, Wolfy, like you, I had zero guidance. Nobody, no aviation in my family. No. It was just I was figuring it out as I was going.
Yeah.
All right. So UCLA, Naval ROTC scholarship. UCLA. Graduated.
So no scholarship. No scholarship.
No scholarship.
Mom and we paid for it on our own. So I went to junior college, Santa Monica City College. So I started later. Obviously, my route was a little bit lengthened. So I had to get out of college in 2 years and 3/4. And so I had to go to City College and then to UCLA and graduate.
And the reason that is because you were coming up on the age limit to go to flight
27 years old was the max you could be to go to flight school. And so we were fortunate enough to graduate in a year and a half. We didn't have to take all a year and 3/4. And we actually had our first baby during that time.
Wow.
And I'm taking her to class with me. And I'll tell you what, if I was to start a dating app for guys searching for the right woman, I'd say, okay, find a baby, put her in a stroller, go on campus, because the attention you got was just crazy. And they were beautiful. And, I joke and I said, they would come up to me, and I never said this, but I always joke. I said, yeah, this is my sister's daughter. She died in a fiery car crash, and I'm just taking care of her. And Becky was like, I don't care. As long as he brings her home, I'm fine.
Yeah. So, that's great.
Yeah.
Hold on, the daughter or the new dishwasher? Who are you bringing home? Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
All right. So what year were you commissioned?
So I was commissioned, I want to say December 13th, December 14th, 1989.
Okay.
So you were post Top Gun movie. So you were probably, hey, did you go to AOCS or you were ROTC?
ROTC. Yeah, I got my commission from ROTC.
Did you guys have to do any kind of a bulldog or any kind of a or was everything you learned about being an officer in ROTC class? I'm not familiar with how thorough that is.
100% everything. I mean, I went from ROTC graduation down to Pensacola, Florida, started flight school.
Okay.
Nice. Okay.
It's a very gentlemanly way to do it. I don't know I would have gotten through what you guys had to go through.
Oh, who knows? Who knows? But the fact of the matter is you crammed 4 years worth of college in a year and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's saying something right there.
Nice.
Well, I mean, I was a history major, so that tells you something. But everybody says, so what was your specialty? And I said, Tuesday and Thursday history. And they're like, what? And I said, I only took my classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays because I had to work Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And, it was amazing, again, how the stars aligned, that I had professors that were willing to give me extra time and help me get some information that I wouldn't have otherwise had.
Right. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, and it's funny that at that age, I think there's some little bit of extra maturity that just goes so much further. The difference between 20 and 24 is night and day. So
I agree.
So you get to Pensacola. AI, I think they called it still in those days.
Right.
Aviation in Dock.
Yep. Yeah.
What was that? 10 weeks, 6 weeks, something like that?
I want to say
here's
10
how
weeks.
engines work.
Sounds right.
Here's how engine works. Go do the Navy obstacle course.
Yeah.
Did that suck or what, Fig?
Well, running in the sand. It was the running in the sand.
It was running in the sand.
Running in the sand. The swim stuff wasn't crazy difficult. I was very comfortable in the water.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the most challenging thing, and I'd love to hear your guys' most challenging, because you guys had to go through all that stuff as well, right? At AOCS?
Yep.
Oh yeah. No,
even more so.
Well, so we
PLCs was separate. Then we did 6 months of what's called the basic school, which is how to wear your uniform, how to be a platoon commander in a rifle platoon, how to fire the different weapons, the grenade launchers, the 50 cals. All that stuff. And then we got to go to Pensacola.
Okay. So, did you guys do the boxing?
And then I got to...
Oh, yeah.
And then I was saying, as I told you earlier, I got to do almost 3 years in Hawk missiles in the air defense community before I finally got myself back down to flight school where I belonged.
Yeah.
So,
we did.
Which I think made me a better flight student. And because by the time I had gotten there, I was now 25 and I had some command time under my belt and learned a lot from the young Marines that I was charged with leading. I think I learned more from them than they learned from me. So,
oh, no doubt. Yeah, I was referencing the one thing about AI that sticks out for me personally was the boxing, and I remember I'm sitting there and I was in pretty good shape and a reasonable size, but I'm on the heavy class and I'm boxing against the heaviest class guy there. And my buddies, he went to the Naval Academy. All my buddies from the Naval Academy are going, "Hey man, boy, that draw sucks. That guy was a Golden Glove at the Naval Academy." And I'm like, "No." And they're like, "Yes." And I'm like, "Crap." And so I pull them aside and I said, "Hey, obviously I can kick your ass. You can kick my ass. How about we just take it easy, get through this? I don't want to hurt you. You don't want to hurt me." He goes, "I'm in." And so we get in and we're jabbing a little bit, and it's crystal clear this guy can't box, can't find. I mean, there's just no way. So they set
you up.
I start wailing on the guy, and he's just, you should have seen the fear in his eyes. I felt like a pure.
What the hell are you doing?
I thought we had an agreement. And I said, "Well, that was when you were a Golden Glove." And so if this guy ever hears, I don't remember his name, I apologize.
Well, that brings back you're triggering a bunch of memories, Wolf.
Yeah, man.
But this ain't about me. This is about you. So, which VT squadron did you go to?
So, I was a Red Bull VT.
VT3.
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 The Red Knights.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then
nice.
Out to Kingsville, and I want to say I don't remember. I remember crystal clear Skipper Geiger, but I don't remember the VT number, unfortunately.
Well, it was 20, 21, 22, or 23.
21.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
See, you're in this, so you're hearing this stuff over and over again.
I spent 3 years down in Kingsville as an instructor at the end of my active duty tour. So
okay.
I was a VT-22 guy. VT-21 and 22 stood up the T-45. Gossard.
Okay. Okay.
VT-23 went away. VT-23 was the T-2 squadron.
Okay.
Well, that's pretty awesome. So when did you get your wings? There it is.
1989. Actually, so I commissioned 1987, got my wings 1989.
Oh, commissioned 87. Well, that's the same year I got commissioned.
Really? And where were you?
Well, I went to college in Missouri. And, graduated in May of 87, went right on active duty, and then did the basic school and all that stuff, and then showed up.
Well, Fig was a Meridian, and I was in Beeville in 89.
Okay.
And then
I showed up in Pensacola. I showed up in Meridian in the fall, so I showed up in flight school in 88. Fall of 8 or spring of 88, and then Meridian. I got my wings in January of 90. Wait, we had to wait till after Christmas. I think we were done in November. There wasn't a wing in or something, and it's a long time ago.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there it is.
Red Knights.
Beautiful.
So out of flight school, what fleet? What kind of aircraft did you go to?
F-18s. First choice. Doc Scholl and I. Doc Scholl was a solo pilot on the Blue Angels. I don't know what carrier I had. He got a carrier, but we were kind of lockstep throughout flight school. I always wanted F-18s on the West Coast, and he always wanted A-7s on the East Coast. And so I remember walking into the training room one time, and Doc's going through the records. I'm like, what are you doing? And I look, and he's looking at my record because he was keeping track of where I was. And he felt bad about it, but the day prior, I was doing the exact same thing with him. Trying to figure out who's
got the more points.
Yeah, who's going to get what?
Yeah.
That's great. So
That's fantastic.
Did you say you went west or east coast?
I went West Coast. I got the gift of going down to VMFAT 101, down to VMFAT 101, down in El Toro.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And so, the Marines are just so focused operationally. It's like, let's just fly. Let's, work hard and stuff. And I loved that training experience. It was different than what I had received in the military. But the coolest thing was I had access to San Onofre/Trestles every day. And I would drive down there. I'd fly, and then I'd go down and surf Trestles for a couple of hours. It was just nirvana for me. Surfing was obviously a big deal for me early on.
And I can surfer out of the waves, but you can't take the waves out of the surfer or something like that, right? Well, that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, let's back up just a little bit to flight school and ask, did you, any particular challenges, any funny or scary moments or anything where you went, oh, maybe, this isn't for me, or this is going to be harder or different than I expected? What, anything along those lines?
I got to be honest with you. My training, I always felt very well prepared. I never had an aha moment, as some folks do. I always felt like, I'm on borrowed time here. Someone's going to figure out that I don't belong. And so I was always trying to follow the rules, and not push the envelope. And I never had the confidence that some of the other guys did that I just admired the heck out. Oh, yeah, no, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I'm like, oh, I don't want to get busted, man. I got a family to provide for. So, yeah, nothing. Right. Well, one unsafe issue was in T2s. We're going out carrier qualifying. Mama Bear's pregnant, but her sister's living in Kingsville with her while I'm out there at the boat. I'm briefed up, and I'm on the ladder at 1600, ready to go out to the boat to get my carrier landings and come back. And she called the squadron because they were advised to call the squadron. And she said, don't do anything to Dave. Don't say anything to Dave. I just want you to know I'm fine, but I'm heading to the hospital with my sister. The skipper hears it, and the skipper walks out to the plane. I mean, I'm literally got a foot over the ledge, and he walks out and says, "Hey, Worm, come down here. I need to talk to you." And I'm like, "Yes, sir." And he goes, "Yeah, your wife's pregnant." And I said, "Okay, I'm fine. Can we go?" He goes, "No, you're not going out today." And so we go back to his office and talk about all the maturations of what could happen. Yeah. And I'm like, well, I can jump on the plane going back to Kingsville today, see my son get born, and then come back. No, that's not going to work.
Were you in Key West?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And the only plan that he allowed was you've got a brief at 4:00 in the morning and you'll fly out at 6 to the John F. Kennedy. And I'm like, okay. So he pulls me off the plane. I have no clue that my wife's given birth. And I'm going out to fly with no knowledge of it. And he pulls me off the plane. I didn't sleep but an hour maybe. I'm constantly checking on her and seeing. And I go out there and things are going great until my very last trap. And I just suck the power off because I got high. And just this blood-curdling power. And I'm like, oh, I'm giving it all she's got, Scotty. And, I barely made it over the ramp.
Oh, shit.
And, that was, certainly an eye-opening moment. And it taught me to make certain I'm assessing correctly whenever I get in a leadership position, the capability of the individual, where they are emotionally, physically, and everything else.
Was that by chance in July? Was your
Yeah, it was definitely in the summertime, and
I think I was.
Yes, he was. Yeah, he was born June 13th. July 13th.
Okay, there you go.
Wow, were you there?
Oh, I got to go look at I got a picture on a wall over here. I got to go look at the date.
So he'll go grab that, and I'll tell a quick story on that. Of course, remember all the T-shirts. You could never get away with this T-shirt today, but of course, I did the Lexington for my carrier quals in both airplanes. But the one class, I don't remember if it was in front of us or behind us, who went out to the Kennedy. So I'm assuming it was the same boat in the summer, July there, and their class T-shirt had the Marilyn Monroe picture where she's standing over the grate and her skirt is blowing up.
Yeah.
And the caption on the T-shirt was, "I bounced on JFK." So. And you could never get away with that T-shirt as a class shirt today.
No. But I bet you they don't even do class shirts anymore.
Probably not.
July 12th, 1989.
Oh.
I went to the Kennedy in T2s out of Key West.
There you go. You guys were neck and neck.
Were you Pontel? You remember Pontel? The name Pontel?
Yes, he was. So I was in A4s when that happened to him.
Yeah, I think same.
Yeah, Pontel. Yep. Yep. So was that?
Well, now you got to tell us what that was. Was that the gent who flipped the T2?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
that was horrible.
Killed people on the deck, and didn't work out.
And all the lessons learned from that, I think, as horrific as that was, and I do not diminish the pain that caused families and everything else, but the way the Navy deep dived that specific topic, and the one thing that they hammered and continued to hammer on was work it on speed. And remember, coming out, you as an LSO, you were never allowed to say that. You either had to tell them you're slow or you're fast. It was working on speed, and he sucked the power off because he was high and he thought he was, fast, and never to recover. Sad.
Yeah. No. And there's horrific video of that on YouTube for those who want to go look. But, all right. Oof. Yeah. All right. So let's get you out of flight school. Okay. Get the Hornets, going surfing, flying, in the afternoon, flying Hornets in the morning. It's a tough life, but someone's got to do it.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Well, so here's I gotta know right now. Did you make it to the fleet as a fully qualified F-18 pilot before the first Gulf War kicked off? Did you fly combat missions in the first Gulf War?
Absolutely. I'm
Okay.
kind of, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Repeat and I watched the whole. Watched
Figure
you
out
and
we're
everybody
fully
else on
qualified CNN pilots.
Okay.
We were in the only Harrier squadron that didn't deploy from the
Did
East
not
Coast.
or did?
Did not.
Did not deploy.
We
It
wa-
was us and the rag.
we sat at
the
Cherry
rag didn't
Point
go, and we
and
didn't
watched
go.
all
Every
you
other Harrier
bastards
squadron in the
on
Marine Corps made it to
CNN.
the desert.
That's right.
What are two things you'll never find in Saudi Arabia? A ham sandwich and a bulldog. So, yeah.
Oh, that is rich.
Yeah.
Are you allowed to say
Yeah.
that?
Oh yeah.
It sucked at the time.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
So,
All right.
yeah.
All right. Pick it up. Repeat. Where are we going with this?
Yeah. So, all right. So you get out to the fleet. Which squadron did you go to first?
So I went to VFA 147, the Argonauts, under Mad Rod, and a really good squadron, a great place to go. And obviously your first tour, there's so many vivid memories. It's unfortunate because I wish I had stayed in contact with all those guys because they were influential in my life. Your first tour, I think, is probably your most important tour. Determines, whether you enjoy the Navy or don't, determines, your success factor, I think, in general terms. And I could not have been set up better with the crew I had, from Beef Wellington and Juice Ayuso and all the wonderful, Case Casey, all the department heads. Spectacular privilege to be an Argonaut.
Nice.
Gak Gallagher and BB Taj, and they were my roommates, and we got in plenty of trouble together. There it is.
Yeah. Beautiful. Got the sword.
Awesome, Pat.
Flying. Yeah. Love it.
Yeah.
All right. And so, but it wasn't very long before you found yourself over in the Middle East then.
Yeah, it was, I want to say I'm a little cloudy on the dimes and dates. There's a, as you get to be my age, I'm not going to suggest our age, but there's so much up here, and in order for me to grab it, I don't know what drive I have it on, what thumb drive it is, so it takes time.
You need a trigger.
Yeah, exactly.
I went to combat relatively quickly.
Yeah. As Fig puts it, as you put more on the iceberg, more penguins fall off. Never return.
That's right. There's only so much room on the berg. Well, were you a JG when you flew in combat on that first tour, or were you?
I'm pretty certain I was. Yeah.
Okay.
No
wingman?
doubt.
Or were you a wingman, or were you already a
Oh yeah. The Swifty program didn't start up then. Each squadron was allowed to develop their own training continuum.
Yeah.
And it varied greatly. I would say the Argonauts weren't aces of the base, but they were very good in the foundational stuff. But obviously Top Gun and the introduction of the Swifty program transformed training and standardization in naval aviation unlike anything past, prior, and I suspect future.
So what kind of combat sortie memory from the first Gulf War do you have? Any significant? Was it daytime, nighttime? Hey, by the way, what ship were you flying off of?
So on that one, we were on the Nimitz. Pretty certain we were on the Nimitz. And, I was just hanging on the wings, and they were using me, to support missions, but I never got any of the great missions, obviously, and I wouldn't expect to. And they probably didn't want me sticking my nose at the dirt and dropping ordnance. But I do remember sitting caps, flying a lot of cap missions and everything else, and doing a lot of tanker missions. I don't think it might have been my first deployment, but, in naval aviation, there's certain things that you need to do exceedingly well, and landing on an aircraft is one of them. And there's this really cool system in place, wherein they grade every single landing that you come aboard the carrier. And I know you guys know this, but you're graded on glide slope control, airspeed control, lineup control. And then it's like a report card, and it's a 4.0 scale. And every, 20 to 30 landings, they have, forecastle follies. We beat each other up, but then they also recognize the best pilots behind the ship. And I struggled my first at sea period, but I committed myself to doing pretty darn well. And I remember I'm a JO, my first tour, my second deployment, and I'm the number one aviator in the air wing for landings. And all I have to do, I have one more mission to go, and I'm going to be the top hook for the entire air wing as a Lieutenant JG. And I'm like,
whoa,
I have arrived. And it was two choices. I'm either going out and landing at 11 o'clock at night, or I'm going out for the pinky recovery. Pinky recovery means that you have a horizon out there, so you've got all your visual cues that you need. And I ended up launching on the pinky recovery. I'm like, yes, soloed under a lucky star. And I'm coming down, and it couldn't be a more perfect night. And I bolted, and I'm like, oh, that's not cool. And I come back around, but I'm like, you're still in the hunt. Stick with it. A long story short, I ended up boltering 4 or 5 times. I got waved off 3 times. I hit the tanker 3 times. We canceled missions into Iraq because I couldn't get aboard.
That was your
and I'm begging the skipper.
Your night in the barrel.
Oh, I mean, it was like the worst. And I finally land, and everybody's like, great job, Worm. And I'm like, no, that wasn't a great job. And I mean, I went absolutely from Rocket 1 all the way to Rocket 323 in one night. And it rocked my world.
Rocked my world. And for our non-aviators, bolter is when the hook misses the wires and you go around. So. Oh,
yeah, and that's
man.
That
talk about a come down.
That back into the ship, the very first wire is the number 1 wire. That's 200 feet down, and then I want to say it's every 120 feet or so that you get the second wire, third wire, and fourth wire. So you're landing at 170 miles an hour in a space of 400 feet, and it's not stable. Yeah. It's not static. The boat's moving, so you got to work with your lineup, and then it's moving through the water glide slope. It is a cool, neat experience.
If it was,
you never have to flare. You got 4 wires. How hard can it be?
Right.
Well, according to those gringos, how hard could it be? Come on.
And everybody's talking to you. How hard could it be?
Oh man, that's just brutal.
Yeah.
All right. Quick question from one of our listeners, Sim Sedlow. Were the Argonauts the first ones to get the Hornet with the flare?
I think we were pretty close, if not the first.
Okay.
He's absolutely right. I wasn't certain if the Blue Diamonds got it before us, but we were the air wing to deploy with the FLIR first.
Okay. Nice. And that's for the non-aviators, forward-looking infrared, which is how you see at night without NVGs. So, yeah. All right. Very cool. So, what else notable? Came back from the war, 2 babies at home? And
at that time, we have 2 babies at home. We ended up with 3, but at that time it was just the 2 babies. And went on to be an instructor pilot at VFA 125. I was
up at Lemoore.
Yeah,
right?
I was the night vision goggle phase head and the LSO phase head. Rushed the team during that time frame. That's like the quintessential time to rush the Blue Angels.
Okay.
So with the Blue Angel experience, you have to have a certain amount of hours and a certain amount of street credentials before you can apply to the team. And then you apply to the team, and then you follow the team around for 2 to 4 air shows and get to know the team, and they get to know you. If you're lucky enough, you get invited down to Pensacola and go through the interview process.
Okay.
My first year, I interviewed and got a call, and I didn't have the flight time, didn't expect anything of it. I rushed the team a second year, and I get invited down to finalist week. And I'm the only one at VFA 125 at this time to get invited down to finalist week. And I'm over the moon excited. And I spent a ton of time preparing for that interview. Mama and I would sit up in bed at night till 12, 1 o'clock at night, just firing questions and answering it. She's a little bit softer than I am, so I would have to kind of beef up some of her statements, but I thought we prepared extremely well. We go down to
Nice.
I'm sorry?
Nice.
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah,
I didn't mean to interrupt your flow.
It was a shared experience, right? And so we go down to Pensacola, and you hang out with the team, and you all go into individual interviews. And I walked into that interview, and every question they asked, to a certain degree, Becky and I had already reviewed. And I come out of that thinking, I got this, and there's some really good dudes in the room. No, I don't. No, yeah, didn't happen. But I'm thinking, wow, I nailed that. And I walk out of there. The rest of the week goes pretty well. You hang out with their families and stuff. You go down to water ski. It's kind of like the bikini contest. And then Friday comes around and they call the team, the guys that make it. And I get my call. And it's a little bit later in the day. And they're like, hey, Wolfy, really appreciate you trying out. Sorry you didn't make it. Good luck. And hangs up. And I'm like, what? Do you guys need me to replay the tape? That interview was awesome.
Yeah.
And doggone it, how could you not pick me? And so we actually go away. And I mean, you got to remember, naval aviation is something that was such a gift to me because I never could have imagined being a part of it. And a lot of that driving factor was the Blue Angels. And I got invited to come down to finalist week, and I didn't close the deal, and it broke my heart. And so we took a year off, and we're driving on base. Now I'm in CAG LSO on the JFK, and we're driving on Oceana. And my son, who at the time was, I want to say 10 years old, he goes, hey, Dad, the Blue Angels are in town. There's signs and pictures. What's going on with the Blue Angels? I said, well, buddy, they don't want me. So, I'm doing other things with my career. And he looks at me, he goes, well, Dad, sounds like you're quitting. You tell me never to quit. And I'm like,
oh boy,
shut up.
Right?
Yeah. Who invited you on this car ride?
And I said, well, buddy, for whatever reason, I didn't fit in. I don't know why. And I will never know why. He goes, but can you try again? I said, I could, but it probably wouldn't work out. And he goes, well, Dad, I think you should try out again. I go home to Mama Bear. I go and ask her, and she's like, Dave, it wrecked you. I said, I know, honey, but I got to try. And she goes, go ahead. You have my support. I go down, without question, the worst interview in the history of the world. I mean, it just stopped. And I get the call on Friday.
Did they ask you about cocaine and marijuana or anything? Or?
No. It's a couple other very sensitive personal issues that came up. But,
sure. Yeah.
I'm like, at least they know who I am, because they didn't know who I was 2 years prior, because I was trying to match the image. And I got picked up for the team.
Wow, so, that's funny.
And I wasn't lawman. Lawman walks into any organization anywhere on the planet, and everybody's like, what do you need?
Right.
You got it.
Yeah.
He's just that kind of guy, right? Intake. I think you had intake on. Intake's very similar. I'm kind of a knuckle dragger, I don't belong here. So
that's fantastic.
So
and I'll share this without going any detail about it, and we won't ask you to tell it because we just won't. But Lawman shared with me that Dino told him that they said you were a cop, right? Yeah, and they said to Lawman, well, tell us something funny about being an Arizona State Trooper, and he told his funny story, and we made him tell it to us. But Dino said to Lawman that you told the funniest joke ever when they said, yeah, tell us a funny joke. So
I told the funniest joke?
You did. Yeah, that you did. And then, and you made them all laugh.
Wow.
And so that was, so
high praise.
And we talked about it earlier today and you didn't remember it. So I won't try to strain your memory.
Well, no, I remember it and I won't bring it up.
Well, there you go. Okay. Yeah, we'll leave it at that.
So what year was that, Wolfy? What year?
96, 97?
So 97 was the bad interview.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you were on the team 98, 99, and 2000? Was it a 3-year tour? or two?
So 2 years for the demo pilots, with the exception of the number 7
Narrator.
pilot.
Yeah.
Number 7 typically fleets up to the solo pilot. And I want to go on record. I mean, I know the people that listen to this podcast are dying to know, what is harder, being a diamond pilot or a solo pilot? And the solo pilots are going to tell you, oh yeah, I think there's a term that they use. 6 hate them, 2 million love them, meaning all the fans love the solo pilots, but the diamond guys hate them. Right. But the fact of the matter is this: the diamond, when you look at the diamond, you think defense. It's a group of people pushing on the sled in the same direction and everything else. And what wins Super Bowls?
Defense, baby. Yeah.
All the time. So I'm more than happy to be a defensive lineman on the Blue Angels and allowing the solo pilots, we call them Mutt and Jeff or the Piston Brothers, to go out there and have fun and put noise over the crowd.
Well, limiter.
Really, all the solo brothers do is keep them entertained until the diamond comes back.
There it is. Right? I mean, yeah. Who is that? Is that?
Couldn't tell you. So he's got, Sticks has a picture up on now that is shot in the cockpit of the number 3.
Yeah.
Looking over at boss and number 2. But
I'm trying to think who that is.
We're trying to figure out who that is. Fig, was that too early reference to the Super Bowl? Asking for a friend. Sorry, dude.
I don't know why you had to go there. I'm a Kansas City Chiefs fan. Wolfy.
As was I. I started out in the first 2 quarters in red, but quickly jumped to green in the halftime.
Well, I basically live in Kansas City, so it's in it. We were in it, and that's it was hard to watch. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Let's go back to So that was in 97. So
97,
97, 98, 98, 99. I'm sorry.
90. I was on the demo in 98, 99. Yeah.
Okay. So the opening bell there, so there I was story was in your first year on the team,
right,
on the diamond.
Yeah.
There they are.
There he is.
Yeah.
I'm on the right side of that photo there. Much skinnier and way more hair.
So were you Wolfy then? Because you said Worm a couple times.
Yeah, so I started out as Worm, but came into being as Wolfy.
So
started out as Wolf Boy, but it was too long to say on the radio, so they truncated it to Wolfy.
Okay.
All right, what's the story behind that?
Is that a good story, how we got there?
It's not a bad story.
Okay.
And you have editorial rights, right?
We want to hear it. We love it. The call sign stories are some of the best. We actually had a Marine aviator on who wrote a book, What's Your Call Sign? And had some fantastic stories. So,
yeah. I mean, I wish mine was a whole lot better, but so Becky came to visit me in Singapore, and, we hadn't seen each other for 5 months, and she came to the pier, we hugged, we went straight back to the hotel room, and I think we buried ourselves in the hotel room for about 12 hours. And I just had my way with her. And, it got a little loud and obnoxious. And I walk out to go grab some food. And my skipper's in the hotel room right next to me. And he looks at me and he gives me a way to go. And, I'm like so embarrassed, but a man's got to do what a man's got to do. And so we go back to the ship, and he explains in excruciating detail.
Oh no!
About what happened and what he heard.
Oh no!
And so it required a new call sign. And everybody knows, in the animal kingdom, the most dominant, sexually aggressive animal in the wild kingdom is the alpha wolf. And that was too cool of a call sign, so they said Wolf Boy. And then that stayed for a little while, and then truncated to Wolfy. So that's story number 1. I'll let you pick the second. Yeah. The second one is we're the last carrier pulling into Subic Bay. There's a water basketball game going on, and I get picked first. I'm 38 years old, and I get picked first, and I'm so excited. I'm still a little kid at heart. Who doesn't want to get picked first?
Right.
But I'll take the guy with the sweater on. And the reason being is I'm furrier than the average TAC Air bear. And so I always use the sexually dominant one as the one that's intriguing and everything. The reality,
Right on.
I just carry way too much fur on my back, and I had to have some type of animal linkage to my call sign.
Perfect.
I love it.
Not the best, but
Yeah. Hey, that's all good.
No.
What was
Exactly. No, that's perfect. Well, I'll tell you what, believe it or not, we've been going at this for 50 minutes or so. Feels like 5.
Yeah.
So let's take just a moment and say thank you to the fine folks who helped bring these shows to you, and we'll circle back on more call sign and wild stuff and hear about the blues. Hey, Fig. So there I was.
Oh, here we go.
Flying high, thinking I had my retirement strategy all lined up. Then I learned the hard way how quickly turbulence can shake that plan up.
Let's face it, folks. Planning for a retirement is a lot like flying IFR in a storm. Without the right instruments, if you're just 1 degree off course, before you know it, you're way off course. That's where HSI Wealth Strategies comes in.
HSI, which stands for Horizontal Situation Indicator, that's the trusty gauge in your cockpit that keeps you on course, just like their team keeps you on course for a secure retirement.
And the folks at HSI know a thing or two about the cockpit. These aren't your average wealth advisors. They're also pilots, just like us. Air Guard and civil aviators who don't just fly the line, they now guide the bottom line. Plus, they're seasoned at working with airline professionals, high net worth individuals, and business owners to ensure financial plans that can withstand any headwind.
Absolutely. And they know the ins and outs of the airline retirement plans like nobody else. From maximizing your accumulation while you're earning those high altitude salaries to minimizing your tax liabilities when it's time to pull back on the throttle. Because let's face it, taxes and inflation are like headwinds working against your glide path to a smooth retirement.
And don't fall into the trap of conventional wisdom when it comes to retirement planning. That kind of advice is like asking someone who's never flown to land the plane for you. We, as pilots, have unique challenges, and HSI gets that. They know how to help you avoid a hard landing on your financial future.
And let's talk about the golden rule of pilot retirement. Hey, Fig, how does a pilot make $1 million in his retirement account?
Well, he starts with $2 million and manages it himself for 6 months.
Bingo. And sadly, I've seen that happen.
Oh, dude. So true. That's why you've got to get a team in your corner who actually knows what they're doing. And with HSI, you're not only getting financial advisors, you're getting fellow pilots who still fly, who know exactly what it's like to be in your seat.
HSI can save you serious money. On average, they're finding their clients $1 million to $1.5 million just by making a few course corrections. Imagine what a little trim and rudder input could do for your retirement account.
So whether you're in the thick of your earning years or just about ready to enjoy your time in the jump seat, HSI Wealth Strategies has your 6. Don't wait until you're ready to make your approach to realize you're off course. Give HSI a call and see how much they can help you save.
Because, folks, when it comes to retirement, you only get one approach. Make sure it's on glide path. To get your extra $1 million or so in retirement, email robert.walling@nm.com. That's robert.walling@nm, that's November Mike.com. Or call 214-538-7030. That's 214-538-7030 to get started on your path to wealth and retirement today.
Remember, 214-538-7030. Think of it as 214-JET-7030 to keep you flying high in retirement.
HSI Wealth Strategies, guiding pilots on and off the runway to a smooth landing in retirement.
Boom.
Okay, folks, I admit it. A history nerd. I love it. I majored in it, and I learned to love it by listening to people who made it real for me. And this podcast that I'm going to tell you about will do that for you. If you love history, especially the real stories from those who lived it, you won't want to miss this. Reading through a variety of memoirs, his father's comrades, along with those who have been sent to him by listeners, Paul Cheall has uncovered a rich source of previously unpublished histories from the men and women who were there, who fought the ultimate fight for freedom in the 20th century. Take, for example, the memoir of Tom Woods, captain of the ship that rescued Paul's dad from the beaches of Dunkirk, a story of courage, chaos, and survival that brings history to life in a way that no textbook ever could. If you're looking for a great Second World War podcast, check out the Fighting Through World War II Memoirs podcast, hosted by Paul Cheall, the son of a British D-Day veteran. It's got Lanks, tanks, and Yanks, Brits and Aussies, Omaha, Gold, snipers, Germans, Japanese, and a whole lot more. The show visits Dunkirk, North Africa, Sicily, Italy, D-Day, Germany, the Pacific War, and beyond. You'll hear family stories, memoirs, and interviews with veterans from all the countries and all the forces. It's all great unpublished history, and it's the top of the charts on Apple and Spotify and more. Check it out at fightingthroughpodcast.co.uk. That's fightingthroughpodcast.co.uk. Or just search WW2 in your favorite podcast player. And if you want more, ask ChatGPT or Google Gemini for a review. Wow. That's the Fighting Through World War II Memoirs podcast, where history isn't just told, it's lived. All right. Yeah, thank you very much, HSI Wealth Strategies and Robbie Walling. And that podcast is pretty cool. Give it a listen if you like history. Another history major on here with me. Woohoo! Loving it.
Oh, not like you, though.
I've actually learned to love it more since graduation from college. There's another one I listened to, Hardcore History. That guy makes it fun.
Okay.
I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but Hardcore History is another good podcast. All right. So where were we? All right. So was it Singapore? Yeah. You get the call sign. Oh, let's get back to the Blues. That's where we were. So you make the team. What was that transition like? What was the biggest surprise about flying with the Blues that you didn't realize? I mean, you've got a good idea what it's going to be like.
I mean,
do you really?
You'd really have no idea how difficult it is. You know, if you went to flight school and you got frontline fighters and you're flying tactical events, you've been affirmed throughout your career that you're obviously gifted. And I'm not saying I'm not saying me.
Right.
Please do not mistake that. I'm saying, but just if you got through it, you know, just such a small population base gets through it. So it gives you some confidence, right? And you go to the team, and the rigidity of making the Blue Angel experience present well to the public is something you cannot prepare for. You cannot, I mean, you just have no idea, you know, and your desire to achieve that level of excellence is beyond comparing anything you've ever done before, you know, and you're constantly feeling like, oh, I'm letting the team down. Oh, I'm not living up to the standard. I mean, it is everything, you know, I mean, this is going to sound silly, but if I was seen off base without a collared shirt on, and we briefed the next day, and I didn't bring up, hey, I was out in town without a collared shirt on, someone probably saw me, and they're going to bring it up because I'm going to pay a fine for that. It's a $5 fine. And so every time you deviate from the Blue Angel expectation, especially as you're a newbie, there's a $5 fine. And you go to San Francisco, and I want to say I racked up close to $345 in fines.
Oh my gosh.
Because my glasses were on when the bosses were off. I had my Sharpie pen in the wrong pocket. I took a bite of something when the boss hadn't already started, whatever it is. And I was the low guy on the totem pole. I had exceeded expectations at $345.
And this is just the first day, huh?
Exactly. So it's, it is so much more than I could have ever imagined, and it was, there was a couple truly wonderful life lessons that I learned when I was on the team. Number one, nothing is ever as good as you make it into your mind. That dream, that perspective, your hope. It's not as great as you think it's going to be, but it's not as bad as you think it's going to be. So it's somewhere in between. And the reason why I say that is we lost two great naval aviators when I was on the team, in both Pauling and Tater. And Kieran O'Connor, he was the number 3 pilot. I'm the number 4 pilot. They ended up crashing 3 weeks before the end of season, and absolute tragedy, and that's some of the darkest days of my naval aviation career. But they were the brightest days too, because you saw the team, past, present, and future, rally around and send these guys off like the heroes they were. And that was, so love that part of the team.
Yeah. Where was that crash?
So that was in, I want to say, Valdosta, Georgia.
Georgia. Okay. All right.
Yeah. And so what had happened was they just basically flew into the ground. And I remember we're setting up for the show site, and you'd go, you have this template of the Blue Angel demonstration, and it fits over every single air show, but we got to get our checkpoints. And I remember I'm approaching the 90, which is 90 degrees off the center line heading. And I went through a flock of birds, and it was significant. And I just called the Tater, say, "Hey, Tater, watch it. Lots of birds at the 90. I roll out. I set my stopwatch, getting ready to run my line. And then I just heard this blood-curdling call from Doc. Knock it off, knock it off, knock it off. And I look, and I look up. I look to my side. I don't see anybody, so I just start pulling up because I don't know what the heck's happening. I look over my shoulder, and there's just this huge black billowing smoke.
Oh, shit.
And what had happened was their LAW on the wingtip caught a tree, and it pulled them into the dirt. Had they been 10 feet north, east, west, whatever the orientation was, we wouldn't be talking about them in this vein.
Right.
So they were in a 2-seater?
Yeah. So what happens is when you get picked for the team, the current member in the position that you're going to. So you'll get picked for the team, you'll travel with the team, then they'll decide what position you're going to. Yeah. And then you fly in the trunk, in the back seat of that position, just to get some introduction to it. And you'll fly with the solo pilots.
Okay.
And so that's what they were doing. Tater was taking bone. One side note, and the intensity of the Blue Angel experience. Kevin Calling, he rushed the team, and he was the only guy that anyone could remember in the history that in our short history, there's two teams, 3 teams involved in this, where it was a unanimous decision to bring him down to Pensacola for interview. And, you needed just a preponderance of the people saying, yeah, bring him down. But Kevin had everyone say, yeah, bring him down. And so he comes into the interview. And, I alluded to the fact that, I've given 2 of the best interviews in the history of the world. I was joking. But Bone 100% did. I mean, when you listen to him and the way he answered questions and the way he talked about his dad, you're like, oh, perfect. And he walks out, and 100%. So there's, the demo pilots and everybody else. I'm convinced, and everybody else is convinced, he's on the team. And so we go through the interviews, and we're assessing who's on the team. We get to Kevin, and everybody's like, thumbs up, thumbs up. One person raises their hand and said, well, I'm not certain. Everybody's like, do we need to replay that tape? That
how is it possible?
Yeah. What are you smoking?
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And that person, and I'm being, protective because I have to be, says, did none of you see his back pocket? And we're like, no, what are you talking about? Yeah, his back pocket wasn't buttoned. And we're like, no. And so a couple guys went out there and looked and said, yeah, it wasn't buttoned. And he was not invited to join the team that year. He came back and made it the second year. But when you think about the level of attention that was, you know, it just, it still to this day amazes me. And, you know, all Blue Angels out there, if I've, you know, released any secret thoughts, I apologize. But I do think it's a wonderful example of, you know, the commitment of the team and their commitment to excellence. It is unwavering 24/7.
Well, that's pretty apparent. Yeah. It is very apparent. So hardest thing about, so we got kind of unvarnished answer from Lawman. Hardest thing about, well, what am I trying to say? Repeat. Not the hardest thing. Best part about being on the Blue Angels and the worst part about being on the Blue Angels.
Well, I mean, the obviously worst is easy for me to answer. Losing Tater and Bone was hard, and I don't think that was the intent of your question and this dialogue. The intent of that question, I think, is what was the most challenging part of it. And, you know, it's funny. And I think that I've shown in my conversation, I tend to operate a little bit on the emotional side. You know, there's people that operate on the analytical side.
Oh, yeah.
And I tend to operate on the emotional side. And one of the things that was very difficult for me, Boss Dom gave us a book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And I know a whole bunch of people have read it, and they all say, you know, and the book says, you know, you're sitting in a funeral and your friends are there and everything else, and you walk up to the casket and you realize it's you. And he wants you to spend some time writing about, you know, what does your friends say about you? What do your colleagues say to you? What do your family say about you? And put that away and then go back and revisit it. And when you revisit it, that's your life goals. And if you're doing them, awesome. If you're not, you need to get back on track. And if you're doing something in violation of that, hey, maybe you need to couch it. And as much as I wanted to be a Blue Angel and I hungered for it, not a single person in the obituaries that I wrote for me said anything about my Blue Angel experience. It was all about being a dad. It was all about being a good husband, a faithful friend, an honorable person. And I got to be honest with you, I struggled with that a little bit to reconcile it, you know, wherein I'm doing something and it's hard work. And I'm gone all the time, and I'm putting Mama Bear through emotional stress, totally selfishly to do something that I want to do. So I was conflicted there. The best thing about it, though, is that level of excellence. They do a great job of ramping you up. They do a horrible job of putting you back into the fleet. You know, go through detox, whatever it is. So you go in there and you're really amped up. But I do think it gave me this commitment to follow through, work hard, commit, and don't let your teammates down. And that's something that continues almost still to this day that I get the great privilege to kind of leverage and pull upon. I hope that makes sense.
Well, it does. Yeah. And I just want to put a little, I'm going to ask it just a slightly different way.
Okay.
Because I think you said this, but I just want to make sure I heard it right. After you walked out the door there in Pensacola as the last time, and you went on to your next fleet assignment, from that day on, you brought a different level of excellence. Or you carry that expectation with you.
100%.
Okay.
And you know, I think I'm thankful for that. You know, and I've carried it in the civilian sector and elsewhere, but also it's not the Blue Angels out here in everyday world. And I want to kind of, you know, build that back in, and it's never going to happen. I remember going back to the fleet and they're like, dude, settle down. I'm like, no, we got to do it this way. And
relax.
Yeah.
But the professionals that you're around and the excellence, the standards that are strived for. I mean,
You wonder why. I could get why you wonder why doesn't everyone want to be this way? The lawman tells the story of, the first time he walked out to a fleet jet after being on the Blues, there's like a 14-inch panel missing off the side of the airplane. It's like, no one pre-flighted my jet? What the hell?
Yeah.
But you talked about not being prepared. It's almost like don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out, even though once a blue, always a blue is my understanding. It was Jungle Jim Ross that told me they're pretty much waiting there with wire clippers as you back out of your space for the last time to take your name off your parking spot. So that, you're out. See ya.
You're like, God, it's kind of final, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hey.
All right, Wolfy. Wolfy, Lawman gave us a couple of pranks that the team played on him when he was new. One of which was the first time he was going to put on the blue suit, they put like 400 staples in
shut.
it. Yeah. So what kind of
pranks did you suffer?
I got to be honest with you. I think generally speaking, it was relatively calm and benign for me and Weeds and our team. But I do know that the newbies behind us, you'd get a rent-a-car, right? And the pilots would be kludged together based on, 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6, and they would be in their cars together. And the newbies would have a car. And I remember we were in, I want to say Saline, Kansas. And so it's kind of, farming and cattle and everything else. And we had basically taken a bunch of hay bales and stuffed it in all the newbie cars. And this happened about 10 o'clock at night, and they had to turn in the cars clean, ready to return to the rent-a-car place. So they had to go and get the cars cleaned out, vacuumed out, and everything else. And I guaranteed if they got an hour's sleep that night, I'd be surprised.
Nice. Oh, man.
So,
what was the other one? Oh, they kept, because he was the Marine on the team, they kept doing the...
Oh, yeah. Well,
doing the march down? Yeah, calling left on the wrong foot.
Yeah.
Damn it, Marine, why are you out of step? You're the only one that's not in step.
Yeah.
What did you? All right. So what did the rest of your naval career look like after you left the Blues?
So I had the great privilege of being the commanding officer of VFA by God 87, the Golden Warriors out of Oceana, Timbo Keating's former squadron, a squadron that had been in existence for like 37, 38 years before I took over. And never once had they won the Battle E. And all the COs and all the changes of command saying, hey, whatever CO it is, Fence, Spanky, we never won the Battle E. It's like, yeah, we know. And I committed wholeheartedly to it. And I took out the instructions. I made sure that everybody read the instruction. We were fortunate enough to win the Battle E ×2. Not because of anything Dave Silky did, but everything what Fence set me up for, and then what Spanky backed me up on. So that was a really cool life experience. Leaving the Blue Angels, VFA 87. Prior to that, coming out of the Blues, I got to work at Dev Group. I got to deploy with the teams to Afghanistan and work there, which was a very humbling experience. And then I went to Washington, D.C., National War College, came out of there and had the longest job title in the world. I was the executive assistant to the executive secretary for the Secretary of Defense. And so what that meant was, I know. Right?
What the hell?
So every department, so Air Force, Navy, Marines, and Air Force, Navy, Marines, and Army had a representative that basically QC'd all the paperwork going into the executive secretary before it went into SecDef's office. And so I was one of those guys. But then there was a dust up and the executive secretary left and the guy that was supposed to come couldn't make it. So they grabbed me and put me in the seat. So it's a 3-star civilian equivalent. I'm an 05.
Oh my God.
And I've got senior Navy officials saying, Dave, this needs to get into the secretary. I said, well, it doesn't have the appropriate code, so it's not going in. And so that was a really neat life experience, seeing Condoleezza Rice walking in the office and saying hi to everybody by name was just amazing. Did that tour, then I got picked up for the Air Wing Command job and had CAG 2 on board the Abraham Lincoln with Sarge. Sergeant Alexander and Shoemaker is our strike group commander. We were living in Pebble Beach, and we had some runway remaining, and a buddy in the civilian sector offered me a killer job, and we living in Pebble Beach and retired there. Why not? I was tired and working hard, so we left the Navy and been in the civilian side ever since.
Wow. Okay, let's back up.
Yeah.
For our non-aviator Navy aviation listeners, can you define the Battle E, what that's about?
You bet. So the Navy and every unit has some criteria that they set in stone that makes a squadron organization aspire to. It's very aspirational, but certain things that they have to, targets they have to hit, whether it's personnel performance, aviation performance, maintenance performance, safety performance, community outreach. It's the holistic view of a squadron, how high functioning they are. And let's say there's, 36 F-18 squadrons in the Navy, 2 coasts between the East Coast and the West Coast. One squadron gets selected as the most battle efficient squadron. So their retention rates and everything else. And it's a highly coveted, highly sought after unit award because it's a team award. No one person gets to say, look what I did. It is the team saying, look what we accomplished as a team. And satisfying.
Nice. Okay, and then you just kind of breezed over this real quick. I'm reattacking right now. You said you worked with the DevGru. And my question that sparked in my mind, and when you said that, was what capacity was that? What
you bet?
Can you talk about that?
You bet. So, finished my department head ride, and I was waiting to go into command. Waiting for the board and the Commodore. So he runs like the West Coast or the East Coast administratively. Called me into his office and said, "Hey, Wolfy, there's a job over at DevGru, and." They have a special name, and I don't even think that special name even matters that much anymore. But so he said, hey, there's this job. And I said, great. And, I go over and I interview at that time with Captain Kernan. And he says, so Dave, why do you want the job? And I said, well, sir, I got to be honest with you. I don't know anything about the job.
I don't.
I'm tired. I just came off at my team with the Blues. I've been on deployments. I just need some downtime to refresh Mama's batteries. He goes, right. No worries. You won't deploy with us. Your job is to train us and teach us how to talk to aviators so we can get the bombs off the jet in an efficient manner. I said, great. So we go and join the team. I get to go to military free fall school. I'm jumping out of planes at 35,000 feet at night.
Nice.
With combat equipment on.
That's dangerous,
I know. I got a couple of appendages that are still hurting from that.
I can imagine.
But then 9/11 happened, and all bets were off. And so I pumped with the teams to Afghanistan, and and I'm 100% an administrator. I do not want anyone to think that I went there to support the team, and I had been supported so well throughout my career, and I went there with the absolute mission to support them to the best of my ability. And all I basically did was set up the hellborn routes for all the activities they were doing. And there were some humanitarian things that we did that were so freaking cool. And it just reinforced how great America is to me personally.
Yeah.
What we did.
Speaking of a group of individuals who strive for excellence, huh?
Oh, yeah. You know what? And you sit there and you think, I'm flying F-18s, I'm dropping bombs, I'm a badass. And, not many people can do this. And then you see these guys. And I joked with one of them, are you guys really as tough as you think you are? He jumped out of his seat and he had me in a choke where I blacked out within, I estimate, maybe 4 seconds. And I'm like, okay, man, I'm not the end. I'm here to help you, please. Don't do that again. But yeah, they are absolutely everything they're said to be. confident, competent, and very subtle, right? They don't announce, hey, look at what I do. They just
they're so low key. In fact, I got a buddy at work that did some union work with, and every now and then, something would come up. We'd disagree on something. And of course, I don't know how. I'd be shocked if he has fewer than 2 dozen hand-to-hand kills. And don't make me come over there and kick your ass, So just like smile.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just kidding. Please don't kill me. Yeah. Those guys. Badass is an understatement.
Well, thank you for that.
Thanks for sharing that. That's
a pretty. So how many years total in the Navy?
26 and a half.
Thank you for your service.
Couldn't do 30, huh?
Well, again, that killer opportunity showed up, and we had our forever house, and it was wonderful. And we get thanked a lot, right? I know you do. I know I do. Sure. And people say, thanks for your service. And my response is, and it's always, I thank them for paying taxes so I could serve, because I had so much fun, and so much of my personal, ego, for lack of better words, was built around this great gift of naval aviation.
That is an excellent way of looking at it. It really is.
Yeah. So.
Wow.
Sorry, guys. I wish I could be as eloquent as Lawman or Intake and some of the other folks, and I wish I had this,
Oh, I know you think you don't, and you're so humble, Wolfy. You really are, but you're. I don't know how else to put it.
He's very sensitive.
You look at it as a gift, and here's what I really love about you, man, is that you appreciate it so much. You realize that this is not something that everybody gets to do, and the fact that you got to do it is a huge blessing. I feel the same way, and I love it so much. I got the damn wings tattooed on my chest. I mean, I just, that was the biggest single achievement of my life, is becoming a naval aviator. Yeah. And then, and once you get those wings, now it's time to learn how to do it. That's just the start.
It's a get to job, not a have to job.
Right.
I never took it for granted.
I've never heard that before. That is brilliant.
Every time I strapped into that jet, I thought, this is going to be the best day ever. It could be my last time to do this. It's going to be the best one ever. And I never took one flight for granted. And looking back on it now, I'm glad I didn't, because you don't know when it's going to end.
You're still flying though, right?
Yeah, I do. I fly for one of the big airlines.
Okay.
I've been doing that for a long time. I finished my military career flying C-130s in the Guard. I did 32 years end to end, but I only but only 8 of them counted for retirement points.
Yeah. Okay.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your service, sir.
Yeah.
If you don't mind me asking, did you retire as an 06 or 07?
06.
Captain, thank you for your service.
Thank you. Yeah. I think we had runway remaining. We had some certainly tells, but and there's times that I look back and I say, oh, I wish I could have stayed a little bit longer and made a bigger, better difference. But I look back at also the memories and things that we did that I would have never in a million years dreamed of in the civilian side. And so, we all make our decisions for a good reason, hopefully informed.
Yeah.
But before we land the airplane, let me ask, what was the best job that you had in all those?
I got to be honest with you. I think I would say, I wouldn't say it at the time because I was freaking exhausted. But without question, I think my air wing ride was the best ride of them all. I had the great privilege to work for Shoemaker. And Sarge Alexander was the captain of the ship. Okay. And I had this group of COs that were unbelievable, and I pushed them so ridiculously hard. And what you're looking at right there is when we went into Afghanistan, I always led, that I want to do things, make it fun, make it challenging, and challenge the status quo. So when we went in to Afghanistan on our first flights, I said, the JOs are leading this. And everybody's like, you can't do that, Wolfie. The COs need to do it. I said, no, the JOs are going to fly the missions. And the Admiral pulled me into his office. He said, Admiral, we've trained them. I have confidence in them. And I want them to know we have confidence in them. And I want them to feel the burden of responsibility of command. I'm giving them command early on. They went in and executed flawlessly. And everybody comes back and says, woo, that was brilliant. Well, we're going out of Afghanistan now. And I said, it's now the senior time. And it's nothing but 05s and 06s going in country. We had Shoemaker, the Admiral, flying the recovery tanker. And we had Sarge Alexander, the captain of the ship, flying in that plane with him. And the JOs kept coming in my office. Keg, that's so dangerous. You can't do it. And I'm like, exactly what they said about you. I think we'll be okay. Right on. And we closed it out with a missile shoot over Qatar, which everybody said, you can't do that. And we ended up doing it. And it was a huge success. So that tour, I took a lot of risks and a lot of challenges, but measured and managed risk. And I think the Air Wing benefited greatly from it. I know I did.
Oh, that's
awesome.
Fantastic.
Well, I wish you could have been there to see that in person.
Oh,
right.
It was so cool.
Well, thank you for that.
Yeah. I don't know the JOs think it was all that cool, but I know it was.
Oh, I bet they thought it was cool.
Yeah.
And one other question, which we always ask, and there it is. We forgot to ask it. You ever tickle the handle?
Very close. Wherein Race Miller and I were coming back cross country. Weather came in, and he got into Oceania. I couldn't get in, so I launched and go over to Langley. I'm on the approach in Langley. Weather goes bad. I launch out of there, push out of there, and go up to Richmond. I'm going to land at Richmond, and I lose the airfield again because weather just kept catching up to me. And I said, hey, guys, I just lost all the lights. And they're like, we don't know why. And then they say, oh, yeah, the weather. And they start turning me away. I said, what are you doing? He goes, well, we're turning you to a 5-mile final. I said, vector me straight overhead the airfield, drop me down to 400 feet, and turn on all your lights, and I'll figure out what's going to happen. And I did. They did. I got overhead the airfield. The lights come on, and I was perfectly lined up for a 90-degree turn to landing. I landed, and I had 160 pounds, and the NATOPS at the time was 1,600 pounds in the Hornet because it was unreliable, unusable, and landed. And I sat there, and they're like, okay, you can taxi clear the runway. I said, give me a minute. I think I must have spent 25. And I taxied clear and made it to the FBO. And that stayed with me for a long time. I tried writing an article, and the skipper said, you can't do this, Wolfie. It'll ruin your career. I said, no, there's some really good things. I learned some stuff, and I want to share with the fleet. Don't do it. I didn't. So, yeah.
Jumping Jehoshaphat's.
and that one was, I was absolutely thinking about pulling the handle.
Yeah.
But what I couldn't resolve was if I pull the handle and that plane crashes into somebody and kills them, and I'm not in the plane, I'm a coward.
Yeah.
And so I thought long and hard about it, and it broke my heart because I'm orphaning my kids if it were to flame out. And
yeah.
So
that's rough.
Didn't pull the handle.
Well, I'm glad you didn't. I'm glad it worked out. That's kind of scared the shit out of me when you tell me the story. I was just in Richmond last week on a layover.
Oh, man.
All right. Let's land this plane. What do you say?
Let's do it. All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your service. Thank you for all the vets who served. And the families who sacrificed so the veterans could serve. So, yeah. I'll jump right into the second one there, too. Let's give our thanks to Dave Hamilton and Backbeat Media, who handles all our advertising, backbeatmediaonline.com or backbeatmedia.com. Sorry. If you have a podcast and you're looking for advertising, reach out to backbeatmedia.com. And maybe they can help you.
Big thanks to Sticks, who's in the background tonight. Bago's stuck in an airport somewhere. He's trying to get home. I think his flight canceled. His laptop's in his checked bag, I think, because he's here.
He's able to watch and listen,
Sticks
I guess.
Is here physically.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sticks, for producing this in the background.
Indeed, Sticks. Thanks for producing. So
Badass was on. I've already seen a couple of his pictures. Thanks for Badass. That's BDS Aviation Photography. He's been a great supporter of the show.
Man, is that guy great or what? Fantastic. So thank you to our advertisers this week. HSI Wealth Strategies, Robbie Walling, help you figure out your retirement. And now that I'm getting closer to it, I wish I'd have thought more about it 20 years ago. So if you're in your 30s or 40s, now's the time to think about it. Not 20 years.
Don't worry about it. You got 20 years before you got to worry about it. Just spend it all. Come on.
That's right. What's the best day to start your retirement planning? Yesterday.
Yeah,
so,
right.
Yeah. So, and then the Fighting Through podcast, give that a listen. That sounds pretty cool. So,
well, we got a new Patreon supporter. Paul Shepardson.
Yeah.
And
he did a $25 donation. We're deeply grateful for that. You've lost your mind, Paul, but thank you. So, Clint Bud. Yeah.
Clint Bud, Pat.
That's for Patreon. Pat is Patreon. He's a Patreon pilot. Yeah.
Thank you.
So
sorry about that. I couldn't write.
Yeah.
I didn't know your acronyms.
Yeah, sorry. And then Sal Marinello has lost control of his wallet and his mind again.
Well, thank you, Sal.
Tanker Aircraft Commander. He's a new granddaddy today, it looks like. I saw a picture on, I think it was on Facebook. It might have been Instagram, but Sal's a new granddaddy. So beautiful baby
awesome
boy. So that's cool stuff. Congrats, Sal. Yeah. So
hey, if you're inclined to give us a rating, make it 5 stars. Because if you can't give us 5, tell us what we can do to fix it. Because we're trainable. Right. So there I was. .us/rate.
/rate. Yeah.
Right.
And then, we're in an ice storm up here, but I'm tempted to put on my So There I Was bikini and go run around in the snow just so the neighbors have something to laugh at. So there I was at US/merch. Get yourself a fine koozie. Get yourself a drinking glass. Get yourself all kinds of stuff. And I'm trying to figure out a way to do it.
Hoodies are good this time of year.
Yeah, absolutely. Robin's Bird Brain Designs is now she was doing the slate coasters. Now she's doing flasks and keychains and all kinds of stuff. We're trying to figure out a way to incorporate that into our merch store. So, but yeah, there's Fig and his VMA 223 Bulldog slate coaster. Cool stuff. So, and then I'm trying to think. I always forget. There seems like there's one more.
There's 2 more. It's the 2 Air Force F-16 pilots that make the Air Force sound good. It's the Dos Gringos.
They lack judgment. Fig.
Yeah, they did.
But they don't lack talent.
No, they don't. They let us use their music. They got 4 albums, and there's not a bad song on any of them, including one that may ring home for Wolfy. I'm always looking right. When you were the number 3 guy, you were always looking right.
Yep. Always looking right. Yeah. Are you familiar with the Dos Gringos, Wolfy?
The Ballad of Thunderbird. I
am not.
It's the
I am going to send it to you. I am going to send you a link to the Ballad of Thunderbird 2. Because 2 is on the left side in the Thunderbird.
So he's always looking right.
Always looking right.
You'll love it. It's gonna ring true to you. You're gonna laugh your ass off. I promise.
Yep. And any and all of the Thunderbird songs, you're gonna laugh your ass off at.
Right.
They're amazing. Those guys are something. So, any advice for our listeners until next week, Fig?
Well, stay safe and check 6.
There I was, crossing the pond, and you could see that I wasn't exactly fond of all the shit I was wearing on that day. Now an F-16 is cramped enough, but it's even worse with all that stuff supposed to save your life. But we knew there was no way. 'Cause when you're going down the North Atlantic, man, it's over.
It's
It's what?
He said it's over.
Oh boy, is this great!
And we are out.
Well, you're a better pilot than I am.